My name is Gavin Kleespies. I'm the Director of Programs, Exhibitions, and Community Partnerships for the Massachusetts Historical Society. I've been with the organization for about 6.5 years. I selected as my object the Bucks of America flag, which I can tell you a little bit about. But the reason I picked the Bucks of America flag is actually not really so much about the object, but as a sort of stand-in for two histories that were written at least partially related to the Bucks of America, or at least mentioning the Bucks of America, and the way that those histories actually changed the world. So the Bucks of America were a group, a militia group, made up of African Americans in and around the time of the American Revolution. Very little is known about the Bucks of America. However, it is the flag and the medallion that we have are interesting in that they're physical evidence of the existence of African Americans, African American militias who fought in wars in America and then in the United States. This later becomes very important in the 19th century. When a man named William Cooper Nell writes a history that's published in 1855 and is called The Colored Patriots of the American Revolution, in which he documents the history of African American service in the US military in different forms and capacities in the American Revolution and also in the War of 1812. This is held up during the approach of the American Civil War of evidence of African Americans being patriots who were fighting for their country and who deserved more citizenship and more recognition for their role. Later, a man named George Livermore, who I have to point out is born and raised in Cambridge, and he is essentially a merchant, a relatively conservative merchant, who is also a great bibliophile. He collects books, is known for having a great collection of books. He's actually friends with Thomas Dowse, who is famous at MHS for the Dowse Library. And he later in life becomes very interested in history and writing history. And he, in 1862, gives a presentation at the Massachusetts Historical Society on a research project that he did, which was titled A Historical Research Respecting the Opinions of the Founders of the Republic on Negroes as Slaves, as Citizens, and as Soldiers, read before the Massachusetts Historical Society on August 14th, 1862. This is published as a book, and it is a more extensive documentation of the role of African Americans having fought in wars in colonial America and then also in the United States. Charles Sumner acquires a couple copies of this book, and Charles Sumner takes this book and he brings it to Washington, D.C., and he gives a copy of it to President Lincoln. And he gives a copy of it to President Lincoln to show that African Americans have acted as citizens, even though they haven't been offered the opportunity to be citizens, that they've served as in the military, that they've made sacrifices for the Republic. And in between the writing of the first copy of the Emancipation Proclamation and the final copy of the Emancipation Proclamation, one of the significant changes is that the second version of the Emancipation Proclamation includes a statement of African Americans serving as members of the Union Army or serving in the US military. But symbolically, why this is very important is that at that time, there was no clear indication of how a person became a citizen of the United States, except there was an understanding that anyone who had served in the military would become a member of the United States. So changing the Emancipation Proclamation to say that there would now be African Americans serving in the Union Army, in the United States Army, was a implicit statement that there was the idea that there could be a road to citizenship for African Americans after the Civil War, after they were emancipated. So this is sort of an amazing series of events in that it suggests that this history that was written changes the future. I mean, it changes world politics. It changes what the Emancipation Proclamation is saying, and it changes what this means to enslaved people. It changes what it means to free African Americans. It radically changes the meaning of what's going to happen. And it's clear that it's a history that does that. So I think that part of why I was attracted to the Bucks of America flag was because it's a physical manifestation of something that then is written about in history. And then that history changes the future. And I think that that's a great idea.